bread and butter service. This is what we're doing today on our beautiful guest Melissa. We're going to be doing some face framing and some concave layers. There's a variation, right, of layering and face framing that you can do, but today we're going to go into concave layers, giving her a long curtain bang and a lot of movement in the face frame. Concave layers, don't get caught up in the term. I know whenever I started doing hair, I would be like, is this concave? Is this convex? What's square? What's round? Just remember, concave layers, it means we're going from short to long. If I were to pull all the hair up, it's going to give a little divot, so just think it's going to cave in. And that's going to be short to long, giving us the max amount of movement. So typically for most of my haircuts, the way I section is I'll section off of their part. I'll ask, where do you wear your part most of the time? If they tell me 50-50, one side to the other, or I like to flip side to side, I will more than likely go down the middle. That's going to make sure that we have balance on each side of the head. Once I establish my middle part, I make sure I find my apex at the top of the head, because that's going to differentiate the hair that's going to fall to the front and then the hair that falls to the back. And we'll connect back here to the mastoid process. If you can't find it, just put your finger down there. You'll feel it. It protrudes a little bit behind the ear, and that's going to be my front to back section. You can also see how the hair naturally wants to fall that way. So this hair will fall that way, and this hair already wants to move back. For our perimeter today, I'm going to be cutting round. That's going to go really well with those layers and face frame. It's going to give me a lot of movement. And the same idea as a concave layer, it's going to go from long to short in the front. We're going to be keeping most of our length today. It's really just going to be about reshaping her perimeter. I'm going to have Melissa tuck down for me. And that's going to ensure that after we finish her haircut and she looks straight ahead, she's not going to have those little pieces of hair sticking out from behind. Always combing my hair down to natural fall. We don't want to create any over direction. Once you start creating over direction, you're going to have a difference in length. So always combing down to natural fall, using minimal tension on her hair. And since I am cutting round, that means I'm going to be moving. So once I'm done cutting the back, I'll have Melissa look straight ahead for me, and we're going to move to the sides. So for the sides, since I am cutting round, her shoulder doesn't bother me. It's going to create a little bit of elevation, but it's okay since I do want that rounded effect. I'm going to section out a guide from the back, and then a section from the front, establishing my guide moving forward. So this is where body positioning for all of your haircuts is really important. You always want to be in front of your section. That's going to ensure that you're going to be symmetrical on both sides, and it's going to ensure that you're not causing over direction anywhere. So when we're moving round, you're literally moving where that hair lives off of the head. Once I have established my perimeter, I'm going to go back and section the same way we did earlier, differentiating like the front to the back. And then just letting that hair fall to natural fall. So creating your guide for your concave layers, there's a couple ways you can do it. One, you can establish your guide by asking your guest, okay, where do you want to see that movement start? If they say, I want to be mid-back, a little bit higher, you can just take a 1-inch section from the top and cut there and use that as your guide. You can use your length as your guide. So really just personal preference and what the guest is asking for. We're creating movement. We're wanting our layers to start somewhere like mid-back around here. A section out about 1 inch wide here. We're going to be vertical. Yeah. I'm going to look for my guide that I cut earlier, and I'll show you. You can see it right up front. Oh my gosh. She is gorgeous. And I'm going to make sure that throughout my section there is even distribution. And this is where body positioning also comes into place. So I lack a little bit of height, even with big shoes. So if I try to really use my fingers and height to connect my length to the layering, one, my back is gonna go out really soon, and two, I am moving way too much. I'm causing like over direction, I'm not able to see straight. So instead of forcing my body to do something it does not want to do, I am going to over direct everything to the front. So that's still going to keep our short to long, because all those pieces in the back are being over directed to the front. And then I am looking for my guide. One, this is going to be a lot friendlier on my body, and I can see my guide connecting to my length. And there we go. So that's establishing our guide to move for the rest of the haircut. I'm going to split that in half and continue moving. Once I start coming around the head, I am going to grab a pie section, comb everything evenly, and I'm coming straight across from where that hair lives, still over directing, finding my guide, and making my connection. I am going to connect the front to the back. Since we are going to be giving her a lot of movement in the front and face frame, I don't want to continue walking up my concave layers, because I need to maintain that length up front to really carve it out. If I were to continue moving up front with my concave layers, I'm going to start creating holes of where I need hair to live in order to make that movement. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my front section, take a guide from the back, and I'm going to over direct it all the way to the back, still maintaining all that length that I need and density in the front. Looking for my guide and making that connection. If the hair ever starts getting dry on you, you want to make sure you're grabbing your water bottle and damping it again, and make sure that everything stays the same level of dampness. Because if not, you're going to cause shorter pieces, longer pieces. When hair is dry, it shrinks, versus when it's wet, it's a lot more elastic. So when establishing the amount of movement that we want in a face frame, of course, you'll ask your guest, where do you want that movement to start? But an important part of it is, where do you want to start in that round of the head? If you want something that's soft, something minimal, then you're going to keep it more than likely to that first round of the head. If you're wanting a little bit more, second round of the head. If you're really wanting a lot of face frame and a lot of movement, then you can go all the way to the apex. Now for establishing our curtain bang first, I'm going to still comb everything to natural fall. Working off of that middle part, I'm going to grab a small triangular section on each side, and this is going to be where I establish my guide. Melissa has so many beautiful features to play off of, but we're going to make it to kind of like the corner of her lip. Because the hair is wet, I'm going to go a little bit past that to allow room for shrinkage. And then I'm going to establish my guide. And just think you're cutting a little arrow towards the middle. Okay? Now what I'll do is start taking my next section. Diagonal forward, and this is where I'll start over directing everything to the front, and I will be using some elevation. So elevation is going to create softness because we're layering at the same time, so it's going to enhance the movement. And then when I cut, I'm going to keep everything at an angle. And I like to move I want to finish one section and then move on to the next. So I'm going to that first round of the head. That's how dense we're going to make for curtain bang. Combing everything forward, keeping that over direction, looking for my guide, and and connecting. Think of you're making an A. And that already begins to have its shape. Once I've cut that side, I'm going to check for balance. So balance that I'm equal in my sectioning and density up on top. And then I'm going to pull everything out towards me, making sure that I'm symmetrical here. So I can tell that my angle is a little bit steeper on this side. So I'm going to go back into this section. Checking for balance there, and now we're symmetrical on both sides. I do want Melissa's curtain bang to connect to her face frame, so I'm gonna take these corners as my guide to move on to the rest. I'm gonna take another diagonal forward section as I move into the rest of her face frame, and I'm gonna find my guide, which is the longest piece of her face frame, of her curtain bang. Over directing everything forward with some elevation towards me. I can find the corner of her bang right there. Once I start getting further in the head, or once I start getting further back past the ear, instead of having really high elevation, I'm going to keep my elevation a little bit on the lower side. That's going to maintain my length in the back. Still connecting everything. Prep Melissa with Super Shine Lightweight Moisture Cream. It's also going to give her a lot of reflection to her hair. But then because we do need some movement to create volume in those layers, we use Tresset, which is a volumizing mousse. It's going to give her hold to her style. And I want to show you how to blow dry your curtain bang. We're also going to be using a Velcro roller to set it in place and cool as we're finishing the rest of her blowout. You want to section out your curtain bang, and that's what you want to blow dry first. That way it has time to cool. We're going to start by blow drying everything forward. Once that root and midsection is dry, then we're going to flip our brush on top and flip everything backwards. That's going to give you that like face framing that you want in the front with the volume, and then it's going to give you that swoop on the sides. Once that section is dry, you'll put your foam roller on top. There we go, and that way as we're blow drying the rest, this will have time to cool, really set the volume and the shaping. Now that I have pre-dried Melissa's hair, she's about 70% dry, I'm going to go in and section her out. So I'm going to take that top mohawk section, because all of this I'm going to want to blow dry using over direction to create volume at the root. So that'll be a section of its own. And then the back as well, I'm going to break it up into one more horseshoe section. Melissa naturally has smooth hair. She does not have a lot of frizz in her hair, so I'm opting to use a ceramic brush. This is going to just create that shape and movement that we're looking for. Always remember your body positioning. So if I'm going to work on the sides and I keep her up high, I'm going to have to be raising my shoulders, and we don't want that. We want to preserve our bodies as long as we can. So I'm going to lower her a little bit more to where I'm able to keep my elbows down. In order to create that volume at the root, we want to blow dry with over direction. So once I finish blow drying that section, I rolled my brush all the way up, letting it cool a little bit before I actually release it. So once I finish blow drying that entire mohawk section with over direction, I'm going to let it cool a little bit, and then I am going to let it sit as a round brush curl. So that's going to give me a lot of movement within her layers and allow it to cool with that volume up at the root. once we finish our blowout, I'm gonna remove there we go. So you can see we have all of our movement within our face frame. She has that beautiful curtain bang that's face framing everything, but long enough to where it's not gonna get in the way. It's not a true like short bang. It's just face framing all of her beautiful features. Her lips pop out, and then she has all that beautiful movement and shine throughout. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in there and look for areas that are sitting a little bit heavy. When I visually see it, I feel like this side of her curtain bang, it's a little bit heavier, as well as this corner right through here. I like to see it once it's dry to really be able to tell where I need to go in and carve things out, versus when it's wet, I run the risk of over texturizing. So now I'm gonna go in here and just break it up a little bit so it's not sitting so heavy. I'm still lifting and over directing to the front, right where I cut it earlier, but just breaking up how heavy those ends are. When this falls, I see a lot of movement through here, but this sits a little bit heavier for me. So I'm gonna go in there and just open that up a little bit. And the way I'll do that is I'm gonna take that section of hair, over direct it just the way I was cutting it, really create some tension to make sure I have even distribution throughout that section, and I'm gonna slide cut by opening and closing my shear and just looking for those heavy spots. So that way once it falls, it's not sitting so heavy. You're seeing a lot more of like the definition in the movement.